welcome to another episode of Click Happens. My name is Doug Kreitzberg. I am CEO of SeedPod Cyber. I have with me Kyle Zadi, who is our Chief Revenue Officer and EVP of Underwriting, as well as Sinclaire Morris, who is our MSP partner, account exec, and in charge of making sure we're delivering on our promises to our clients. Sinclaire and Kyle, happy to have you here.
Thanks, Doug. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm sorry I wasn't around yesterday. I had to call in sick because Alexa didn't wake me up early enough to get into work here because AWS was down, and I thought that would be a good topic. Now that I'm refreshed, I'm back in the office. That we can actually talk about that, and I'll give a little bit of background, and I'm certainly keen on your perspectives here. First of all, AWS is not a root beer. It is it's short for Amazon Web Services, and Amazon Web Services is a cloud platform, for lack of a better term, and it is. It allows companies, individuals too, to put data instead of on their hard drive or in their office, to put it on the cloud, and it does a lot of things that actually helps them expand, provides more resources. It has tools that enables them to do more things from a capability standpoint, and it's also supposed to be more consistent in being up and accessible than having something that's on your hard drive or on your server in your office here. That obviously wasn't the case yesterday, but we'll talk about that here. And a lot of businesses are using Amazon Web Services, and they're not the only cloud out there. Microsoft has its own cloud. As well as Google. And then there's certainly a lot of different private clouds, as they call it, that exist here. Yesterday, however, AWS, their cloud was down for a period of time. It wasn't down because North Korea was invading the cloud, or China or Russia. Or a 16-year-old in the basement of their mother's house. It was down because of just a system failure that occurred within AWS, brought the system down, and impacted a lot of businesses, as you can maybe imagine here. And now it was only down for 2 hours. Although it seemed to have a ripple effect, because it was tough even after 2 hours for some people to go to a website and to get things done here. But technically, according to Amazon, that was the period of time that it was down. I'm curious, Kyle or Sinclaire, did you have any kind of that was Alexa down for you? Did you oversleep, or was there something you were trying to get online to do that you weren't able to do yesterday?
Yeah, to be clear, when this happens, you have like 7 days to use this as an excuse for anything. You could be late to anything, and you just kind of go back and you're like, it was Amazon's fault. I'm sorry. It was XYZ.
We get a good mulligan. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Totally.
All pass.
By the way, Doug, I'm going to get that work done for you in a couple days, not today.
Right.
So I had a total first world problem where I went to order my Starbucks. I was like ready to go when I walk in, so I don't have to stand in line. And it was down, and it was before I got like reports, and I was like, what is this? I get there, and I looked at my phone, and I'm like, all right, Kyle, relax. Like, this is not a that was my thing.
You don't want caffeine restriction to get in the way. That's definitely an issue. What about you, Sinclaire? What about you?
No, I didn't notice anything different.
You were living in a carefree AWS free zone, so you didn't have to worry about that.
Sounds like good business continuity. Maybe Sinclaire had some workarounds in life and did
right. Exactly. In other words, she had a life as opposed to
Yes. But on a busy
But
Monday, I would have definitely been a little frustrated if I would have run into issues for sure.
that's right. That's right. Here. So it, it caused a lot of consternation as businesses trying to get things done, or individuals trying to get their first jolt of caffeine for the day. Here, we're obviously in the insurance business, the cyber insurance business. So when something like this goes down, our thoughts naturally kind of go to, wow, how is this? What is this from a cyber insurance perspective? And what Kyle, can you kind of speak to that a little bit? What is how does insurance view this?
Yeah, I mean, this is the big concern, to be honest. There are big insurance companies, big reinsurers. There is an ILS market out there for catastrophic loss that we are all a bit concerned about. We're concerned that it's not 2 hours, that it's 12 hours, 72 hours, 2 weeks, right? And really, when I look at what happened this week with Amazon, it's not just a cloud provider. It's really, you could think of the theme of like digital infrastructure. Obviously, we go back and we can talk a bit about like CrowdStrike that happened a while ago, Change Healthcare, items that really are kind of infrastructure of the digital world and affect businesses. It's a big concern. It is a really big concern. And it's from top to bottom. Again, I was just mentioning, we have big insurance companies that are trying to do data modeling around this to figure out, are these things going to happen? If this happens, because these events are such what's called a systemic exposure, right? So one event, one Amazon cloud going down might be triggering for a company 100 policies, 1,000 policies, more than that. And that's concerning from a loss perspective. So there's that element. And then there's, the individual buyer of insurance. And what do you do if your business goes down because Amazon Cloud isn't there to support you? There's this type of scenario. I used to talk to retailers about this exact type of scenario where it's Black Friday. It's maybe, let's pretend, around that time you're making 30% of your revenue for the year, and the site goes down. Well, the people are just going to go to other sites and purchase where they can, right? So there's some big concerns here, and it's very much on top of mind of insurance and understanding how insurance policies can react, and kind of, again, understanding that systemic exposure.
Yeah, that's it really is critical to understand it from a number of different perspectives. Sinclaire, you were on the phone today with someone who had to go through this and themselves as a business, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it was a coincidence, or it might have been a coincidence that they were shopping for cyber insurance the next day. But yeah, absolute AWS infrastructure, and they were only down for 2 hours, so that's good. Obviously, it's been said, I guess, that this wasn't a result of an actual breach, just a system deficiency, like we spoke about. And of course, there are, in some cyber insurance policies, coverage for this exact situation. So definitely, underscores the importance of having coverage for something like that when we see, a giant like AWS have an issue, even if it was only for 2 hours. Clearly, our infrastructure is pretty fragile, and it's interconnected in ways we might not expect. If something goes down, how much it impacts all of these other areas.
Yeah, and it's also, it is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how many cyber insurance sales actually occur afterwards. But also, buying cyber insurance may or may not help in a situation like this, depending upon what you buy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and if you've looked at a cyber insurance policy, hopefully you've seen contingent business income loss, or, well, actually, I should rewind. Let's start with, business income loss. So for your lost revenue because of downtime to your own network, or an incident affecting your own network. But then there is also another coverage section in most cyber policies called contingent business income loss. And that's for cases where a vendor or a third party that you rely heavily on to operate suffers an incident. But beyond that, so like yesterday's situation, or I guess Sunday and Monday's situation, wouldn't have been covered under contingent business income loss because it wasn't downtime as a result of a breach or a cyber incident. It was that system's deficiency. So those are the words you'd want to see under business income loss section on your cyber policy to be sure that something like this would be covered had it have lasted, a full business day, like Kyle mentioned, a week, 2 weeks. That could be catastrophic, of course.
Right. There. And Kyle, is because you've been, working within tech and cyber for a number of years now. Do you think that the businesses understand the concept of business interruption, contingent business interruption between systems deficiency and, regular, I guess? What's your take on the understanding out there?
Yeah, it's another piece that needs to be constant education. I remember when the market was creating this coverage and putting in like the system failure, and I use the term system failure, and we had to constantly go out and explain. People are like, what is this? How does it work? And I always tried to break the coverage up into kind of 4 components, but Sinclaire started to go through exactly the differences. I like to use an example, and I'll go back to that kind of retail example. You have a retailer that is using, a cloud computing service or something like that. That cloud computing service has a security breach, and it affects, the client, and there's lost revenue. That would be a trigger there. But on the other side, what you could call like a system failure is that if that cloud provider they're doing a network update, something like that, the network goes down. And again, in that circumstance, the insured therefore goes down. They're losing revenue. That's something that is insurable. So I always try and use examples when it comes to explaining it, because it gets really detailed, but it is important to understand that coverage is out there and it's available. I also think, and this wasn't necessarily maybe as important with Amazon, the event this week, but when we have some of these downstream situations that occur, what we see in the marketplace is we see a crunching or a slimming of available capacity with vendors. So if you actually go back, if you think about Kaseya, when Kaseya happened, and there were a lot of companies out there that were trying to get access to different firms for like incident response, that sort of thing. And a lot of them were making phone calls to vendors that do that. And the vendors were like, hey, sorry, we're way too busy. We're working with XYZ. We're working with SeedPods of the world and their clients because they're on retainer. So I remember at that time, I was getting phone calls from brokers with clients that didn't purchase cyber. And they were like, hey, can you get us basically in with this firm, because they can't get a hold of anything. So it's another thing where it's, insurance is, people think of just the dollar amount that's paid, but getting access to services. And when you have these big events, you better believe that everyone is super busy with it and you want to have access to it, because it's scary if you're going through this and you need services and you can't get get that help.
That's absolutely true. That's a great point. And can't getting a hold of the services, you don't have the right expertise. You're not sure what to do. To be able to have the carrier be like, I don't know if they still do this now in Disney, but where you could hire somebody to get you in front of the line so you could, get to Space Mountain faster than anybody else, right? So just imagine that all of a sudden there's a run on Space Mountain. It just happens to be your business, and trying to get yourself fixed. If you're way back in the line, good
Is
luck.
that a thing? You could hire somebody to actually do that?
You can hire somebody and they will take you to the front of the line. Right. And I always used to try to trip them, because I never hired them, but I would try to trip the people, elbow them out, good Philly way. But yeah. What do they still have, the fast pass?
I haven't been in a while. Sinclaire's in Florida, so maybe she knows. I do think you have to have the fast pass to survive.
Right.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
The fast pass. I know. And the Floridians buy them all up first. The rest of the people
Got to put upcharge on it. It's a good.
Yeah, right. So cyber insurance is the fast pass in this digital age. I think we're gonna have to start branding this somehow.
Tag that.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great point here. Now if you're a business, what besides buying the right insurance and making sure that you've got contingent business interruption with system failure added in, among other things, what else should they be thinking about doing?
I think of just pure business continuity planning. It's funny, all of this comes back to basics. And, with every new cyber exposure that comes out, it comes back to like, what is the company doing from a planning perspective, whether that's incident response and the needs there, or in this situation, I think business continuity planning. And I think Sinclaire, you were mentioning earlier before the call about the client you were talking to who was affected because they were mainly set up with AWS, which is totally understandable, right? AWS, they're a leader in the space and that, but it's really understanding, like, do you have a fail safe if Amazon actually just shut down for a week, which I know we can't comprehend, but it could happen. What is your plan? Have you already talked to other firms to step in and help you as a cloud provider or things like that? I think doing your homework behind the scenes, having those relationships is really required and needed. That's my take. Again, I think you don't want to be the company that's it's like a deer in the headlights where you're like, oh my gosh, we were really relying on this firm and now we don't know what to do and we're trying to figure it out. I think it's the planning before the scenes where, and I've been lucky. I've spoken with larger companies in the past that they would walk me through that process of, yes, we work with XYZ, provider over here. However, we have our backup plan here. We already have contracts in place, ready to go if something happens that we can switch over within a couple hours. So that's kind of the really good planning that I've seen in the past that can make companies really, resolute in these situations. Right.
Sinclaire, you work with a lot of MSPs, and when you're talking on the phone with them with their clients about the insurance side, how do the MSPs kind of frame the types of services they do with regards to backup or continuity? Do they focus on that at all?
I mean, that's a tough question. Of course, they talk about having a written information security plan, incident response. I mean, these are the basics, right? In continuity in the face of an incident. I definitely have seen an uptick in conversations around vetting vendors and reviewing contracts when you're working with others for, reassessing dependencies on major cloud providers, of course. And those reservations, Kyle, that you mentioned, do they have a backup plan if all of the vendors that they're working with rely on a singular cloud provider? That could be considered high risk if there's an issue with that one singular cloud provider. So I definitely have seen conversations increase, I feel like, around that.
That it's a good point. We're talking about Amazon and what occurred yesterday, but if you think of what's the more likely scenario, and that is that a vendor that you rely on that's smaller than Amazon, of which there's a lot of them, goes down. And how are you really assessing their ability to stay up? And if they're a critical vendor, we had a client who was using a CRM, customer relationship management tool, and it was kind of a proprietary, or I guess it seemed to be like a boutique CRM specific to their industry. Well, they went down for a month And so that business couldn't access its client information and for that period of time. Now they figured out a way to get through it, but you really need to be thinking about, if I'm relying on not so much, you obviously think about what happens if Amazon goes down, because obviously that can occur, we know, but thinking harder about what's the vulnerability I have having all my eggs in this one CRM basket in this example here, and what do I do if that CRM is down? Are there mechanisms that I can transfer over? It doesn't have to be to another CRM, maybe I'm just, we need to make sure that we've got Excel spreadsheets that have been backed up the client data so that we can still continue to service the clients, etc. There, that's an important part here. I even when Change Healthcare occurred a year or so ago, a couple of years ago, I guess, I happened to be at a healthcare information conference, and the chief security officer of a large health system in the state of Washington was actually going through in his continuity plan, how do we make sure we have enough paper and pencils if the system is down for a period of time? Because we are so large, and the amount of data that we would have to keep would require reams and reams of paper that we don't have because nobody uses paper anymore. And so he's at one end of the extreme of kind of thinking about that. A lot of businesses probably don't have to get there, but you really start thinking through the scenarios and to work it out in your plan. And sometimes that can best be done through just getting the right people around the room and say, okay, guys, let's talk about all the disasters that could happen, and regardless of the likelihood, and kind of keep peeling that onion back, and then trying to figure out how would we respond. It's ironic because when I talk to, and I even talk to MSPs, managed service providers, and I'll say, what's your business continuity plan? And they say, well, we're all cloud-based, so we're good. Obviously, maybe not the right strategy at this point. And I hope that they're redrafting their plans here. But that's also, as an MSP, this is actually a great opportunity for you to kind of think about the services that you're providing your clients. It's not just it's not just to make sure bad guys aren't getting in, but it's to make sure that things are running even when bad things happen, regardless of how that occurs, right? There. So I think there is an opportunity to kind of, if you're an MSP, maybe doing an assessment of their cloud environment. What's their risk exposure there? In terms of course, everything is as a service these days, resilience as a service, and what does that look like? Do you have multiple cloud options in that case, or some type of failover mechanisms in place with regards to it there? Kyle, what are your thoughts on kind of how MSPs may want to, think about their services in light of what's going on and how interconnected we are?
Well, I think, with the way this world is going, you're just going to have even more companies moving to cloud if they haven't yet, because it's such a good structure, to be honest. It allows businesses to be businesses and operate and everything. So I think we all have to, I think companies have to just, understand that is the way we're going. And for MSPs, I think, like you're saying, Doug, it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity to be partnered with different clients and make sure that they understand that if they're not the main provider, they can be a fail-safe, things like that. Where can they come in and save the day if it's needed? It's critical. Again, it kind of goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about it's very important to have more than just one relationship that you're relying on whether it's a cloud provider or managed service provider, you want multiple relationships. You want those discussions way down the road. You want contracts in place. So, I mean, MSPs have a huge opportunity here to, keep making this, I wouldn't say a safer place, but a stronger place for us all to operate in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, Sinclaire, one tool that you work with a lot with our MSP partners and with clients is the insurability audit tool. And I think, how important is it to really understand what you have in terms of insurance, and so that and knowing that you can be taken care of there.
Yeah, absolutely. The insurability audit is a great first step. It provides a gap analysis on your current coverage, so you really understand what you're paying for. And then taking that a step further and seeing, are you really compliant with the security requirements that your carrier has outlined? So are you, paying premium on a policy that will actually respond when you need it? But beyond that, when we do have those calls to review the report results, I find it's a great way to kind of start the conversation around even topics like this, because you kind of get a big picture view of where you stand from a security standpoint and what your risks look like. And so it can lead to conversations around how can we improve, even if we do have everything that we need in place. From a baseline point of view, what can we do to remain as resilient as possible?
Right. Well, that's great. And, and the, we all want when we get up in the morning, whenever we, even if we do snooze through the Alexa, we want to be able to turn on our phone or laptop, whatever, and have it work. Right. And we want the data to be there, even if there is a glitch. And we have to wait a couple hours. And it's really important. Resilience is something that the insurance, a well-designed insurance plan should be able to help with, as well as having a good either IT team or a MSP who's kind of helping you through that. So, we're just, Kyle, any kind of final words from you?
No, we avoided me going into a long conversation about reinsurance and RDS scenarios. So I think it was a successful podcast. So
there you go. We almost missed, got all the way through without reinsurance being stated there. So
real neat stuff,
That's right. So I think I had the over under at 3 minutes, and we made it to 29 minutes. So the over is one of this. But in any event, thank you so much, Kyle Sinclaire. Really appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.